Hunter Biden's making a pretty savvy business move for, an idiot. But I, again, I don't think you have enough to actually get Joe for it. Like,
So you're saying selling the United States to China is a savvy business move?
dude, I, I mean, don't ask me. Ask any business in the United States. Ask them where their stuff's made. I don't know, Jeff. Like, what are we talking about this week?
Yeah, I guess we just jump right into it, and some of
Right.
the highlights and things that we saw throughout the week with UFOs, and just a quick note on some of the stuff that we talked about last week, I guess, with the
Right.
threads and their daily active users being down. I think it was like 25%
Yeah.
or something. So like seeing that. Um,
I mean,
I
we
did
could
see
start with.
Sound of Freedom too.
Oh, you
Thought it was
saw Sound of Freedom? Was it really good?
it was all right. Like it definitely isn't a bad movie. Like it's probably the best conservative movie that's come out, or like from a conservative standpoint.
I mean,
Um,
I don't disagree. I did not watch it. I did read the reviews. You know, it's not a bad movie. It's based on like historical events that are completely not how it happened in real life. But it's
but
fine.
the story it tells is definitely a realistic scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like how the kids get taken, and then just FBI
Right.
tracking things down. But still, just
I'm
to kind of like not spend or like not really dwell on that, but
right.
it's kind of a distraction. I see it as something for the left and right to talk about that's not really gonna have a major impact on how we live our lives.
I mean, yeah, and I think it's what was it the Daily Wire that financed that one?
No, this was so actually that is an interesting the Sound of Freedom.
Hmm?
I don't remember who the original studio was, but the filming stopped, I think, in like 2017, 2018, and then Disney bought the rights. And Disney was like, no, we're not going to release this. This is gonna like
Okay.
they needed to protect the that sex ring. But
They needed to protect the
yeah,
sex.
allegedly,
Right,
allegedly.
right, right.
Uh,
Jesus Christ.
but no, and it wasn't until the people that made the film were,
Mhm.
no, we don't want this just to sit on the shelf. So they kept
Right.
shopping around, and then I think it's like Angel Studios,
Mhm.
something Angel was the ones that released it. But no, I feel like it's just as much of a distraction or sideshow as much as like the alien stuff that was going on with Congress testifying
Yeah, I
there.
mean, I watched like all of the alien hearings, and what I got out of it was literally nothing. Like it made headlines and everything like that, but it's like, dude, all these people are claiming to have all this information, and they get an interview with Congress and then share none of it. So like the one guy's like, I can't discuss that in a public setting. Like, dude, if you had this information and you think the government's hiding it, why wouldn't you discuss it in a public setting? Like, why would you agree to do an interview in a public setting at all?
It's the
I don't.
same thing as Adam Schiff saying, "No, I've got all this information that proves Russian collusion." It's the
Right,
same thing as Giuliani and Sidney Powell saying, "No, we've got all this evidence to prove ballot fraud." Like,
right. And the only thing that I think these people are just looking for clout. I think they just want to be able to say that, oh yeah, we testified in front of Congress about this, and that's really all it is. But it's neither here nor there. I've seen the UFO footage. Like almost all of it is explainable. I mean, if you know anything about cameras, most of it is just tricks of the camera. But I mean, we'll see. I want to believe is been my saying since I was a little kid. So like, I want to believe. Thanks X Files for that one. But I just don't think the guys in front of Congress are being honest about it, and that's pretty much where I'm going to leave that one because I got nothing. like, like I learned nothing. It was a giant waste of time. Um,
yeah, I would take you one step further though
mhm,
than just people looking for clout. Like, I think
right.
there's and not just to say like, "Oh, I testified before Congress." I think you have enough people out there that are just pathological liars
Yeah.
that they just it's that same kind of clout chasing, but more of just, "Oh, people believe me." Like, "Oh, I'm getting away with it." Like it's almost
Right.
like a like some
I
type of disorder or
mean,
philia or something.
pathological liars, like, most of those people that sit in Congress anyway. So it's liars lying
Yeah.
to liars. Like,
Yeah.
like this is perfect. It's a full circle
Yeah.
moment. Like,
Yeah, all playing off of each other, but
Right.
Again, I think just distractions from the important stuff. So
Mhm.
what is that important stuff? Like obviously Hunter Biden and his little sweetheart plea deal and
Oh my God.
how that's fallen apart.
The thing is like as much as I think Hunter Biden's like stuff, as, as far as it relates to Joe Biden, I think is a nothing burger. But he did get a sweetheart deal, and that kind of raises some eyebrows. Like when you grant someone immunity in perpetuity, that's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, for anything that the DOJ has investigated, and it
I
doesn't
mean,
matter if Donald Trump becomes president. No, you're not allowed to invest. There's nothing.
I
Don't look
mean,
behind the curtain.
DOJ effectively gave him like DOJ effectively pardoned him because his dad couldn't without looking bad. And I mean, I think the right is right to be upset about it, but again, I don't think they have enough to actually like prosecute Joe Biden over it. That's just my stance. Like,
Maybe,
mhm,
but what's funny? So when you talk
mhm,
about pardoning, so there was somebody that asked Karine Jean Pierre in some press conference, "Is the big guy gonna pardon Hunter?" And
mhm,
she said no. Like she shut that down right away.
mhm,
That But if you wanna talk about Hunter's ties and, like, the big guy actually being in China, like, tied to China,
mhm.
like, that's where all of it is. I honestly don't really care about the gun charge, like, yeah, the
You don't care about
hypocrisy is funny to look at. I
the
don't care
right.
about the drugs. I don't even really care about the tax evasion. The only reason I care about the tax evasion is how much it ties Joe or the big guy to Hunter and what amounts of money he's been taking from foreign
I'd
countries.
say first off, I don't really care about tax evasion because 99% of business owners in this country are guilty of tax evasion. Like, I don't care. I do think you have a point that it's weird that all this money's coming in from China, but
And
again,
Ukraine.
well, more or less China. I think Burisma is just it's also nothing. Like you kept trying to tie Joe Biden to Burisma, you couldn't do it. Now it's moved to China. I think China is a developing economy. I think that they're challenging the U.S.'s economic dominance in the area, and most U.S. businesses are now looking to expand to China if they're not already there. So again, I think Hunter Biden's making a pretty savvy business move for an idiot. But I, again, I don't think you have enough to actually get Joe for it. Like,
So you're saying selling the United States to China is a savvy business move?
dude. I, I mean, don't ask me. Ask any business in the United States. Ask them where their stuff's made. Ask them where the biggest market is now that they're trying to get into. It's China.
I I don't
Like,
disagree, like, China
like,
is definitely the next superpower, like, I think they're gonna supplant the United States,
yeah.
honestly, if they
And the
haven't.
thing, and the thing is like we can sit here and try to blame Joe Biden. We can blame Donald Trump. We can blame, but honestly, I think it lies with Nixon. When Nixon opened up uh, U.S. businesses to China and used China as our factory, and then all of a sudden China has a booming middle class who has money that US companies want and they're trying to sell to. I mean, it's a savvy business decision to move to China. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. Like,
It's a savvy business decision to move your corporation and say and not even move your corporation, but just to open up your target demographic and say,
right,
instead of focusing on 330,000,000 people, I wanna focus on 1,000,000,000 people. Sure, that's savvy business, but to
right.
try to say the same thing about Hunter Biden, that what he's doing is savvy business moves by telling like, basically selling the United States to China. "No, I'm gonna give you favor with my dad, who's
Mhm.
the big guy."
Do you
I don't think that's savvy business moves, I think
yeah,
that's corruption.
but that was back when Joe Biden was vice president, not when he was president, right? So let's just say
Okay.
like let's just say that it's true. Let's say all of it's true, right? If he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to get you favor with the vice president," Obama could just override that, right? He doesn't have to listen to Joe. Like,
So you
like
mean like the Burisma deal that you say is a nothing burger, and
mhm.
then when the whatever head lawyer, head attorney for Ukraine starts looking into
Yeah,
Burisma, starts
the
looking
the
into
the prosecutor that
yeah, Victor
showboated
Shokin.
about getting fired.
once he starts looking into that stuff, the vice president comes in and says, I'm going to withhold $1 billion. And the Ukrainian government says, you're not allowed to do that. That's the president's decision. And
Mhm.
Joe Biden just makes a, yeah, call him. Call him. You're not getting the billion unless you fire this guy.
All I'm
That
saying
vice
is,
presidential power.
about to say, hold on, hold on. So what you're saying is like, all right, so Joe Biden supposedly did this to protect his son, right? Like, oh, this company's looking for Burisma. Now you're saying that the conspiracy's gotten wider. It's not just Joe Biden, it's Obama too. Like they were all in it to protect Hunter Biden. I'm just not
Mm,
buying it. I'm not
and
buying it.
but I'm not saying
Like,
that Obama, like,
mhm,
I think Obama's hands are definitely dirty and definitely very bloody. But
mhm.
I'm not saying that Obama was pulling the strings on Joe Biden and this whole deal. I think it's not a stretch to say that Joe Biden was just bluffing. That if they did call up, if they did have a direct line to Obama to try to look into this, but I
I
think
mean,
the big guy is still making plays that he doesn't have the power to make.
I mean, you're assuming that Joe Biden's the big guy. I mean,
Oh, I'm gonna call him the big guy going forward. I
going forward. All
yeah,
right.
I kind of like the
I'm
LGBTQ
gonna
on.
contact the DNC and have them put the big guy on campaign posters because I think the big guy is a wonderful name. Vote for the big guy.
Yeah, start
Let,
leaning like Cocaine
let's
Mitch.
do that.
Just
Yeah,
lean into the
yeah. I
nickname.
mean, just cocaine Mitch, and like Mitch never ever came out against it. He actually, I mean, it seemed to benefit him. So I mean, just lean into it. Just be the big guy.
That's what there was the T-shirts, I think, with I don't remember if it was like money raining on them or what the
Right,
like
right. The
Cocaine Mitch
big guy.
T-shirts were, but yeah, shoot, that should have been the background. I was looking for Hunter Biden, like just
Right,
to have
right,
something like on the
right, right.
like that Hunter Biden with the like with the
Mm,
selfie where he's got the
right,
cigarette and like
right,
a crack pipe.
right. I mean, I just think it's interesting that like they really couldn't get anything on Joe, so they're trying to use Hunter against Joe. And I think the American voter is seeing that for the most part. So
N- So what I think the American voter is seeing is that the Hunter Biden laptop, that information was suppressed in the 2020 election.
mhm.
There's no bones about that. Facebook, Twitter, all of big tech colluded to
Well, was it
suppress the Hunter
suppressed?
Biden
Yes.
laptop.
Why was it suppressed? It's because it came from one media outlet and couldn't be verified by any other. So yeah, you can say big tech colluded, but I think all of them saw the same thing, which is like, oh, this is one media outlet saying one thing that may or may not be true.
But the reason that they couldn't verify it wasn't because they tried to verify it and oh, we came up with nothing. It was they weren't allowed to verify it. And
Well,
that's a big difference.
that's the thing. Big tech wasn't not allowed to verify. And what it was they went, okay, well, what other news organization is talking about this? And it was literally no others.
No,
So like,
what it was
mhm,
the FBI telling big tech, the
mhm,
FBI saying, "Hey, we can't confirm that this is a real laptop. We can't confirm that this
okay.
isn't Russian disinformation." And then leaving it up to big tech when the FBI knew that it was legit.
Well, that's the thing is like when you open the door to censorship, and this is something that we do agree on, when you open the door to censorship of any type, it allows for this type of abuse, right? Like because we were all afraid of Russia meddling in the election, all of a sudden it became okay for us to just any story anywhere at any time had to be reviewed before it was posted online, which is insanity, right? So like I'm not pro censorship, but I do understand like the thought process as to why big tech was in the position they were in. So I mean, you're right on the censorship. I just don't think it was big tech that was behind it. I think this was a process problem more than anything else.
Yeah, and you might
Mhm.
it wouldn't take a lot of convincing to get me to say no, it's not big tech. It's really the FBI that's at fault and these
Right.
agencies that are telling big tech this is what you need to censor. That might be the bigger problem.
I mean, I think both me and you can agree that like the NSA is a problem in this country, right? Like the NSA and the amount of power that they hold, like this is just an extension of that. Like they proved the concept by using the NSA to monitor all our phone calls. Now they're using the FBI to monitor all of social media and issuing takedown notices and things like that. Like this is just another step in that chain. Um,
NSA, FBI,
right,
ATF. ATF was creating laws, which I
right,
mean that's not even within their purview to say
right.
these types of
Oh man,
accessories or stop
I
like
I live in Texas. Ask anybody around here about Waco. Nobody likes the ATF. Like
that.
it's like
Let me
it's
tell you, that
crazy.
extends beyond Texas.
Right, I know. Nobody
Yeah.
around here likes ATF. Like just carte blanche. Nobody here is an ATF supporter. like we all see what happens, right? Um,
Yeah.
but no, I think when it comes to the Hunter Biden story, that I think it's still nothing. I think that it's the Republican Party trying to bash the sitting president, and that's fine. Like, there's a lot to bash Biden over, but I don't think this is one of those things. I think, yeah, Hunter Biden's a bad dude. He probably shouldn't be anywhere close to power, but he's also not in the government. So, I,
He shouldn't be, but at how much at what point do you start taking his words and his text messages at face value and say he's not just bluffing? He actually does have these deals. Joe Biden does know what's going on with him and is involved.
okay,
Because that was the that was the big guy's statement was, I know nothing about what Hunter Biden's doing. I've never had a conversation with him about it. And then like 6 months later, well, I'm not in business with him.
let's say it's burden of proof though. Like, okay, Hunter Biden says that, oh yeah, I'm going to need 10% for the big guy, right? And even if I take it at face value, big guy being Joe Biden, right? You have no way of knowing whether or not Hunter was just bluffing to get an extra 10%. Like, that very well may be the case, right? So
You're absolutely right. So
like,
let's have that investigation.
okay.
Instead of
So
saying there's no way that we can prove this with what we know now. Well, no,
okay.
let's go look into these whistleblowers.
If you can show me where $500,000 from a $5 million deal ended up in Joe Biden's bank account or in one of Joe Biden's businesses from somewhere, then yeah, I want to know about it. But I don't think you can find that. I think these accusations are just that. I think they're accusations and nothing more. So, I mean, we can keep doing the Hunter Biden stuff, but I don't think you're going to find anything. I think this is designed to hurt Joe Biden's reelection chances.
And
I,
you know
I
what
just,
I'm going to say when they have that investigation and they can't find anything,
right.
he was just too good at covering his tracks.
I mean,
It'll
that's
never be
exactly
enough
what
to
they're going to
convince me.
say. If you can't find anything, you're just going to be like, oh, well, he's just really good. Like,
Yep,
oh, dude,
you're
hey,
never
look,
going to
he
convince
couldn't
me that
find
Joe Biden's
anything.
clean.
Now, that's the thing, and we can transition into Donald Trump if you want, but
That's what I was thinking.
but that's what everybody's saying about Trump is like, oh, the reason we can't find Russian collusion is he's just too good. I'm like,
Mm,
no. Like, he, it, he's he's not that brilliant. He's a good sales guy, but he's not that great. Now, the team of people around him might be able to cover that stuff up, but do you think that if Donald Trump had colluded with the Russians to win the presidency, he wouldn't be writing a freaking book about it, or he wouldn't be talking about it on the podium? Like,
the
I don't.
Russian collusion, I
Right.
think that's been pretty well
Mhm.
disproven. But all the other stuff, I mean, I mean, we were just looking at the list that I'd put together here before the show.
Right.
Just all the stuff that is being attacked on by Trump. And let me just run through it real
All
quickly.
right. Go ahead.
So some of the cases that we've got. So number one, you obviously have the hush money for Stormy
Stormy.
Daniels, and I'm trying to think Cohen. I can't remember his first name, but you have that going on. You have the Georgia find the votes. You have the classified documents. You have more January 6th stuff.
Mhm.
You have House representatives suing him over January 6th. You have Capitol Police suing him over January 6th. You have real estate valuations that is being sued over. You have tax crimes. You have his niece, Mary Trump, saying she was defrauded out of inheritance. And she's suing him. You have the NAACP suing him for just pressuring to overturn election, like
Right.
just applying pressure, putting his thumb on the scale. You have
Mhm.
E. Jean Carroll with her rape accusation that she was the one that said, "I think most people think of rape as being sexy." She said that on Anderson Cooper live TV, and he had to cut like awkward moment. You also
Jeez.
have a Ukrainian advisor suing for retaliation. You have protesters suing Trump because they were assaulted by security. And then you also have Michael Cohen, that was the name,
Yeah.
uh, suing for retaliation because Cohen wrote his book, his little tell all book. So
Right.
all of this coming to a head, all of this in 2023, gearing up for the election, trying to stop him from being even the front
Yeah.
runner, even being a nominee.
Hey, don't be a bad dude. Don't break the
Yeah,
law. Like,
don't
like, like,
don't
what
break the
do you
ball.
want me to say? Like,
signal when you change lanes, don't jaywalk. I think everybody has done something illegal at some
okay,
point.
yeah, but I don't think me and you have laundry lists that are this long. I don't think we've defrauded people. Eugene Carroll was raped. Like, I'm sorry, the judge and jury found that she was raped, and Donald Trump lied about it. And not only that, but then he goes on TV the next night and goes, "Hey, uh, I still deny this." So she's suing him again because you had a judge and jury pretty much convict him. Like,
And it's nothing to do with her book deal. And O.J. Simpson, you had a judge and jury say he was innocent, so O.J. Simpson's completely innocent, right?
I mean, the Wookiee defense worked in that one. And I think at
Yeah,
that point, like,
yeah.
the media just wanted to see, you know, just wanted to see OJ get off. You have to look at the
Uh,
climate at the time, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of things that led up to OJ Simpson, but that would be an episode in itself. Like, we could debate that trial. Because
I would actually be down because I don't even
right,
believe that. Like I believe OJ actually is innocent.
right.
Like
Do you
that
believe
was a
it's
little yeah.
OJ's son? I watched an entire
I
documentary on how it was OJ's son. Oh my God.
100% on board.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I think is the US government being overly litigious? Probably. But I mean, it's not just the US government at this point. Like, you have state governments coming after him. Okay, the state of Georgia is owned and controlled by Republicans. Like like Republican governor, Republican Secretary of State, like Republican. It is a red state and they are
It,
suing Donald Trump.
is
Like,
the Georgia? I don't know if it'd be like I guess not district attorney, but like a attorney general, whatever you call like the attorney
I'm
of the
pretty sure
state of
it's
Georgia.
Republican, but don't hold me to that. I will get you a name. But
Oh,
I'm
I've got the name. It's Fannie Willis. I
okay.
had noted that, but I didn't look up her
Didn't
political
look deeper. Are
affiliations
yeah. I
or
think
connect
I think it's a
George Soros.
Republican, but I could be wrong there. But I do know that, like, Brad Raffensperger, the guy who he called, is a Republican.
Oh,
And
for
even
sure.
he was like, "There's something wrong with this call," and he's the one that turned it over. Like,
So the power of the government is just such a wonderful. So Fannie Willis definitely political party Democratic.
okay,
I don't know if like I don't know how many ties I guess I should say
mm,
she has to George Soros because all these attorney
George
generals have.
Soros has become like this awesome boogeyman that the right likes to, yeah, tout out. Like, the problem is like, I go, oh well, who's the brothers that are Republican
Koch
financiers?
brothers.
Yeah, the Koch brothers. But you don't hear me like spouting conspiracies about how the Koch brothers finance everything, even though we do have pretty good financial records that show that they finance a lot of opposition. So I think
Yeah,
where money comes from doesn't dictate what happens.
but Soros kind of changed the game though, where he was targeting and not so much targeting, but I guess targeting his funding to try to buy lower level positions instead of trying to I want to pick who's going to be the governor or the
Right.
president. Trying to say I'm going to fund the people that are going to actually
Right.
enforce laws or not enforce the laws.
I mean,
So
I-
that's
so,
where the
so,
right's big
so
problem
me
is
and
with
you are
George
on the
Soros.
same team where we want to get money out of politics in general. Then,
Oh, very much so. Like that
okay.
Sam Bankman-Fried. That's
Mhm.
another one of those
Oh yeah,
sweetheart deals that I heard somebody trying to make the
but
claim
it was
that
but it was Democrats and Republicans there, and they were both being financed because all he was trying to do was make sure that nobody was going to look. And I mean, and it worked. That's the scary part, is it worked. You
so
give somebody enough money, they will not look.
that's what I was just about to say, that I heard
Right.
somebody trying to say that he was funding both sides. And if you
Mhm,
actually look at the breakdown of where Sam Bankman's freed money was going, it
mhm.
was like 40 something million dollars going to Democrats. And I think it was like either 5 million or 500,000. It was
Okay.
very insignificant compared to what was being donated to the
I think it
Democrats.
turned out to be like 5 million, but that just tells me that Republican loyalty is cheap. like,
If that's your takeaway versus
that's my
who
takeaway.
Bankman Fried supports
I
or
think
recognizes who
when
can
you
help
have
them.
Democrats that are serious about finance regulation, this, that, or the other, I think you got to pay them a lot more to turn a blind eye. Whereas Republicans, they're just like, I mean, you pour a couple $1 million into my next campaign, I won't look. like,
Yeah, and
I mean,
if you talk about getting money out of politics, like
mhm,
that's where again, kind of a callback to the last episode there, where I think you were saying your dark horse candidate was going to be Mike Pence. You
yeah,
remember who my dark horse candidate was?
I think it was Vivek. Yeah,
Yep, Vivek Ramaswamy, and that's what he made. it's easy to like talk is cheap to kind of throw these
Right.
words out there, but he was saying that if he does get the Republican nomination, that he'd be willing to make a handshake deal with the big guy or whoever on the Democratic side, that we're not going to take any money from super PACs. Neither one of us. We're going to try to get money out of politics.
Dude, the Citizens United decision has been a crazy disaster. Like every election since that decision has gotten crazy with the amount of money that's flowed into it, like all these backroom handshake deals. Like
What was the Citizen United deal?
that was the Citizens United is the ruling that basically allows for super PACs. It allows unlimited campaign donations by organizations. So, in other words, corporations can file as an organization and pour as much money as they want to into any candidate they want to,
Hmm.
which I will say is an absolutely terrible decision. The ramifications are as follows, right? Like passed under George W. Bush, the Obama election, it was the most expensive in history, and then all of a sudden you get Hillary, Donald Trump, that becomes the most expensive election in history, and now Biden, Trump is the most expensive election. Like it just keeps going up, right? Because
Yeah,
you have corporations pretty much pouring in as much money as they possibly can into this to get favor. I mean,
but how much?
if,
So
if if Vivek's honest, then good for him. I won't say he's got my vote, but I will say that, like, hey, at least someone's talking about it on the national level.
Well, a quick note. So why I think that's maybe a little bit disingenuous by Vivek to say that is because I mean
Right.
he's already independently wealthy, so it's kind of like, hey, I've got this huge war chest, and you've got this modest sized war chest. Like, let's get
Right.
rid of the supplementary money. So yeah, but
Right.
when you say that it's the most expensive election, like every election is the most expensive election, to me that's like kind of saying that this hurricane caused more damage than any other hurricane, and it's because you're measuring it in dollars and the value of the dollar keeps going down. So yeah, the amount of dollars that are being spent on things like that number is always going to go up.
Well, that's the thing is like even accounting for things like inflation, like since 1980, our election costs have just skyrocketed, right? Because it used to be like how is it that individual citizens can only donate so much to their candidates, but if they open up an S corp, all of a sudden they can donate as much as they want. Like why? Like there is no difference between the two, except one is money throwing through an S corp that I've set up, and the other one is flowing from my personal bank account. Like,
And that's what Vivek kind of gets into that saying that it's not so much the donations that are going to like causes.
mhm,
So if you want to have some PAC that helps fund candidates that support pro life, pro abortion, whatever cause, that's an okay super PAC, but it's money that's going directly to candidates just because we want to get this person elected.
right.
I think that's where you kind of have that corruption problem.
Well, the thing is it gets a little worse than that because a lot of them have gotten smart and they won't funnel money directly to candidates, but they will funnel money directly to like the RNC or the DNC, right? So it becomes a little shady, but the idea is that people don't spend this kind of money for nothing, right? They want something out of it. So it's really like what are the handshake deals that we don't know about? Is it cuts to regulation? Is it I'll tell the EPA not to look hard at whatever factory you got going, things like that, right? And the thing is that that cuts both ways. Like Democrats are if just as much, if not more, guilty than Republicans on it, where they'll cut a sweetheart deal with some billionaire who wants to open up some sort of business and they'll be like, well, we'll relax EPA regulations in just for you, right? Like we'll look like we're coming down hard in this area, but we'll relax them in the area you're in. Like it's insanity. So I mean, I think I think if he's being honest, then yes, I mean that kind of pulls me in his direction as a dark horse candidate. I don't see it. I'm pretty sure with DeSantis falling, and I mean like falling hard, fumbling interviews, fumbling everything. Like his interview with Fox News should have been I don't know, you're in friendly territory. It should have been the easiest interview you've ever done and you fumble it, right? Like like
But
I
see that's what I want to see. I want to, or I guess not see, is going into these friendly territory interviews where it's
Mhm.
this non-adversarial, and that's again Vivek. Like he's going on to these shows where it's leftists and it's Democrats and it's people trying to tear him down. And the dude's eloquent. He doesn't quite have that Donald Trump charisma, but he's funny. He's quick witted,
Mhm.
and I feel like he says all the right things. Honestly, my only knock on him as a president or just a leader is his physical stature. The dude looks like he's probably like 5'5" or 5'6",
Right, right.
which I know it's such a like stupid thing to nitpick about somebody that could lead the country, but
Yeah,
looks
but if you go
has
you go into a debate with Joe Biden and Joe Biden towers over you, it's gonna look really bad.
or
Like,
Donald Trump.
yeah, it's I mean,
He's gonna have to be like when Hillary was on the debate stages and they have that little footstool for her
oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
bring her up. Like that's gonna have to be Vivek.
Donald Trump will just go step stool boy over here wants to and it I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
As soon
it's
as Trump takes him seriously, like I'm
right,
actually kind of interested to see what the nickname would be.
right. Vivek. Well, what's his last name? Ramaswamy?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I mean,
swampy. But
yeah,
but that's the thing is he comes from basically the same background as Trump, where he comes
right.
from a corporate world, and he just got sick of hearing like all this diversity, equity, inclusion stuff.
Mhm.
And he's really, I think another thing that we were talking about before the show, Vivek really is a "Make America Great Again" candidate, and it's not MAGA with the capital M. It's not this like movement or anything. He seems like a candidate that genuinely wants the best for the country. Like he had something where he was saying that it once you're out of high school, you're not allowed to vote unless one of two things. Either A, you can pass the same civics test that we make immigrants take, which that sounds totally fair, or you enlist for the draft.
Well, I think it's a little disingenuous for him to do that only because those are the demographics that mainly vote for leftist candidates, right? So, of course, he's going to want to try to disenfranchise those because then people will vote more Republican. So, I think instead of trying to win them over, Republicans have just been trying to find ways to push them out of the electorate. And I mean, good luck to you. I mean, because it's the same argument that people had back in the Vietnam era. I can go fight in a war, but I can't choose who the president is. That's kind of messed up.
But
Like,
that's the thing is so that's where he's taking that same
mhm,
logic and saying so 25 is the cutoff. So once you're over 25, you don't have to take the test, you don't have to be registered for the draft. But if you're registered for the draft, you do get to vote. You do get to say all you have to do is have some skin in the game. It's not just hey, I won the lottery and I was born in the US of A. It's
the
no,
thing
I've
is like
actually
we've
got some
discussed
stake
this
here.
before, and I feel like yes, people should have skin in the game, but I don't think it should. I don't think the cutoff should just because you're young, you don't get a vote, right? I don't think it should be like if I have to register for the draft at 18, right, which is a requirement for all male citizens, and I think female now. Um, to register, then yeah, I get a vote. So really, you've not disenfranchised anybody because you're going to have college students who register and then never serve. So what did you
Sure.
do? Like
But that
you got nothing.
so so that's what he's going for is he's going to decriminalize that he's not going to make it so you must register for the draft.
Okay.
It's going to be an actual volunteer deal, and I think
Hmm.
that's a great move. And it's not just oh because you're young, it's because you're young and uninformed. So if you can't pass a basic civics test,
Hold on. How many elderly people in this country could pass a basic civics test? So you're trying to
I
tell
would
me that you're trying to tell me that some 70-year-old senile man can vote? Like,
I would be just as much in favor of having some type of civics test.
mm.
And I know it sounds a little too close to maybe like a literacy test or
So
something that
someone's gonna get a bunch of phone calls from the AARP. Like,
for
I'm just saying. Like,
For sure. AARP, ADL, NAACP,
right,
every group out there that likes to
right.
sue people, like you're gonna have that.
Mhm.
But the thing is, number one, he's making these claims before he's even the front runner. I mean, I think he's
Right.
polling number 3 right now. So he's saying this. And another thing, that 25 age. So when you're saying, oh, it's the people under 25 that tend to lean Democrat,
Mhm.
well, do you know what happens biologically around 25 years old?
Mental maturity?
Mental maturity, and more specifically it's your prefrontal cortex becomes fully developed,
Mm,
and that's the part of your brain that's responsible for decision making.
right.
So
So
if you're making decisions on who to vote for and you don't have a fully formed brain for that for decision making, I don't know. That sounds like you're throwing shade at the Democrat Party for.
Okay, so why don't we just move the age of adulthood? You're not an adult until 26, y'all. You're not.
I'm honestly in favor of that, but the voting, but again, like if you've got skin in the game, if you're registered for the draft, if you're not even just registered for the draft, if you're,
The thing
and I
is that
guess that'd be a step forward to go in the military, but
that's the thing is that process would become super convoluted. So in order for me to register to vote, do I need to bring my my selective service card? Like,
maybe we should have some type of voter ID.
oh, Jesus Christ. Voter IDs are just a way for Republicans to disenfranchise voters. Like,
How?
at the end of the day, well, is an ID free?
Let's make it free.
Okay. Is your
Like
driver's license free? Is your social security card like how hard is it to get your social security card? Have you been to the social security office? Like
no, it came free when I was born.
what it is like Republicans are hoping that people with jobs will miss the deadline in order to register to vote by throwing up as many roadblocks as possible. And the thing is that's why the NAACP sued over it. That's why a whole bunch of other like organizations have sued over it. And judges across the country have found that yes, this disenfranchises older voters, black voters, female voters, anybody who's working anybody who's working a full-time job. Like it just it doesn't make sense. All it is you don't like this group voting, so you're trying to find a way to make sure that group doesn't vote. And
How
the
does
thing is,
requiring of a voter ID disenfranchise women, blacks, and whatever other groups you listed off there? How does it disenfranchise them disproportionately
so
compared to?
So here's the thing. If you go and look at like the likelihood of a certain demographic to actually have a driver's license, you'll find out that it's primarily white individuals. It's primarily like people that will have all their documents in order are going to be, I mean, people in their 30s and 40s. Young people aren't going to do it. Elderly people who can't get a driver's license because their eyes are messed up, they're not going to be able to do it either. So
Okay,
what have you
but
done? What
I'm not
if you're
saying
a
you have to.
Republican operative? What have you done? You've just gotten rid of the two demographics that don't normally go your way.
But I'm not saying you have to pass like a reading exam, like you have to do the eye test. Like I'm not saying you have to pass a driving test to
Hey
go
Jeff,
get this.
prove you're a citizen. Like right now, prove you're a citizen.
Like you want me to get up and go grab my birth certificate so I've got my card that says I'm a citizen?
So you actually have your birth certificate with you? What
Not
percentage of
with
the
me right
population?
now, but I
Let's say
could in 30 seconds.
well, that's what I'm saying is what percentage of the
Oh,
population do you think actually has their birth certificate?
because I'm white and
Or
mid
of
30s,
the
like that's the reason I've got it.
exactly.
Checkmate
Exactly.
atheist.
Yeah, checkmate atheist. No, that's the thing is like what is the percentage of young people that you think actually have that documentation? What's the
I've
percentage of
had
elderly people that
I,
you think actually have that documentation?
I will have been able from the time that my mom gave me my birth certificate, which I think was like right at 18. I
Well,
think I
I
could
have
have told you
mine.
exactly where it was
I have mine. I
every
have my
second
birth
of every day.
certificate, social security card, driver's license, everything that I would need to prove that I'm a US citizen, right? But when you're young, your parents might have it. So are you like are you restricting young people who their parents need to mail them that information in order for them to register to vote in the county in which they live?
No, it sounds like
Like
we're restricting irresponsible people. Like if you're having your parents, if you're over 18 and you're still having your parents handle stuff for you, like I'm not hearing an argument against why
okay, name
we
one
should
other
restrict
thing
these
that I
people
need
from
to show
voting.
my birth certificate for.
Name one thing.
Yeah,
I
name
mean,
one other thing that I would need
just
to show
about
my
any time, like going through security clearance stuff. Like when I was playing like 16 and under basketball,
Mhm.
like whatever rec center, like I had to bring in my birth certificate to yes, I'm eligible for the league that I'm trying to play in, and
Right.
that requires a higher level of proof than it does to come in and vote to play in a 14,
What
16.
do you need to vote right now? I need an address and the county in which I live. That's it. I need to live at an address inside the county in which I'm trying to vote.
Okay, and all I'm saying is that you need to prove that. So I can't just go into a neighborhood, trash
So
day, let me steal somebody's mail, and now I've got your address and a name, and then I'm going to show up on election day.
hold on. Why like if the government already has that information, right? Like if I get my mail delivered to this address, if I get if I pay utilities at that address, if I all of these things are controlled by the city anyway. Why can't I just show up and be like, yeah, I live at this address? They go through and they confirm, hey, they pay utilities at this address, they get their mail delivered there, you're good.
Because all they're confirming is that the name that I'm giving you,
Mhm.
that's the name that lives at this address. It's not confirming that I am that individual.
Okay. I mean, I
And
live in
and that's what
Texas.
I'm
Texas
asking for.
requires a photo ID, right? Now, when I lived in California, I didn't need a photo ID. I just walked in and said, hey, here's my address, here's my name, here's my address. I filled out the little booklet and then I went in and voted, right? So the process there is in order for that vote to count, they need to go through and verify that my name matches my address, matches whatever documentation they have at the state level,
Which was name and address. Again,
which was
trash
just name
day.
and address, right?
Trash day, I can go into your recycling and guaranteed I'm gonna find something with people's name and address on it and everything I need to be able to walk into a polling station. Or
Okay. So you want a photo ID for
photo
everybody
ID
who,
would be ideal.
okay.
And you know what?
Now,
If we wanted,
does my the address on my photo ID have to match the address in your system?
no, because I mean, people move enough. I mean, it's
I was about to
well,
say, yeah, my address is still my old address on my
all I'm asking for
ID.
is some level of verification. And if that's going to be, here's ID cards that you have to get and renew every so many years, I would be very much against charging anything for that, or having any type of fees associated with it. But I think there should be some level of verification.
I mean, I think there should be more than there is, but I think voter ID laws in general, I'm more or less against. You'd have to make a very strong case as to like how this doesn't disenfranchise people from voting. Like, I think putting up a barrier to be able to vote is a bad idea.
So, and I think that's where our difference is you're
Mhm,
looking at these as barriers for good, upstanding people to be able to come in and vote, and
mhm.
I'm looking at it as barriers for people to commit fraud. And when you've got the Attorney General William Barr coming up and saying there's fraud in every single election, it just wasn't enough to sway it.
Okay.
I don't
And
know.
there is
I
fraud in
don't,
every single election.
and
Like,
I don't
don't
like the idea that everybody just accepts that that's just people are going to be people. Like, what can you do?
okay.
And then when
Tar
people start presenting solutions, no, we can't do that.
okay. Do you think Target shops everyone who shoplifts or things like that? No, because the percentage of their inventory they're making money off of versus the amount they lose is still substantially higher, right? Nobody is committing fraud in this country who has the numbers that affects the outcome of any election. Like
Mm,
all of the prosecutions for voter fraud that we've seen have been such a small level that it just doesn't it doesn't even register, right?
but
Like,
I'm gonna give you that same, what if the big guy doesn't
mm,
doesn't get caught? It's it's the fraud that you caught that you're talking about. How much
right,
fraud doesn't get caught that maybe does have an effect on elections? And I'm not as concerned with the presidential election where you've got millions of votes, and just how complicated that is. But
right.
some of these lower scales where
Yeah,
it's
local
determined by
elect
maybe 3,000, 4,000 votes, and I think that's definitely within the realm of possibility that fraud
mm,
swings that.
yeah, local elections, things like that. I get there where like your one vote actually matters more than like a presidential election. But I'm just saying, even then, even so, my favorite thing is when Trump came into office, he appointed that committee to go look for voter fraud, and they found what? They found one dude in North Carolina, but he was a Republican operative, and then they found one lady in South Carolina who voted because she had moved. She voted once in her county and once in her old county. Those are the only two instances they could find. Like
Yeah, but it's still, and I mean, this is one of my favorite just like isms or sayings is evidence of absence isn't absence of evidence. Or I
okay,
got that backwards, but
right, right,
saying that there's no evidence that there's fraud doesn't mean that there is no fraud.
okay. But I'm saying when you appoint people to investigate it, and you only come up with two instances, and they're so tiny and they can't sway an election, I, I I don't know what to tell you except that you're searching for something that appears not to be there. And the
Yeah,
thing is it's not the first committee that's been assigned to looking at voter fraud. And every single time they either come up with very little or empty handed. So it seems to be not a problem.
Or maybe it's because the guardrails are
Mhm.
so soft or so loose that there really isn't a way to be able to catch this fraud with the way things are. And I can't see how either the only people I could see being disenfranchised by some type of voter ID law or some type of registration like that is going to be people who don't really have physical addresses,
Right.
namely homeless people or people that are in jail, or I guess they have a physical address, but
Right. Right.
um, I think people that don't have a place to store an ID,
Now, one
like
of the
homeless
things,
people and people
yeah,
in jail.
one of the things that I do think is, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but mental disabilities, right? We have no clause that prevents someone with mental disabilities from voting. And yet, what Vivek is trying to do is say, well, you're not fully formed until after age 25. I mean, you're really towing a line there where you're like, oh, well, we're gonna tie voting to your mental faculty,
Not
right?
even. It's
Mhm.
all we're doing. So what he's saying is that all you have to do is pass the same citizenship test that if somebody
Oh,
wants to immigrate here, you just
oh,
have to know some very basic stuff about our
I want to
country.
see. I want to see Vivek take the citizenship test.
You think he couldn't pass? You don't think he would get 100% on that?
I really don't. I mean, I think that the majority of people in this country, if handed a citizenship test, would fail it.
So
Like
have you taken a citizenship test?
I actually have. So one of my summer jobs growing up was helping people in their citizenship tests.
Yeah, so it's
So like,
basic stuff.
yeah. But
Like what is the
the thing
Bill of
is
Rights?
if I take that citizenship test, and the thing is like I had a high school teacher who had us take the citizenship test, and it was like it was an insane amount of people failed the citizenship test in our class because it asks some interesting questions that you actually have to sit there and think about for a second. But it's like, hey, who was the fifth president of the United States? Like, like, like things that
So
a normal person on the street wouldn't be able to like spout off, right? Like people think that a citizenship test is just like, oh, who founded the country? George Washington. Like it's not
mm,
like that. It's like, can you recite the preamble of the Constitution?
I don't think that is definitely not the citizenship test because I've taken some
Okay,
of these too, and it's
what
like,
is
what
the
year did America declare its independence?
okay?
I mean, that's
What are the three things in the preamble of the Constitution that is promised by the Constitution?
it's life, liberty, and the
No,
thing.
no, it's there's something
No,
in
I
there about
yeah,
promoting the general welfare. There's secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that would trip somebody up.
but there's also a difference between you're not allowed to study for this test
Mhm,
and no, you have a test coming up. Here's the stuff that you're going to get asked 10 of these 30 questions.
mhm.
I don't think that's a high bar to set.
I mean, I also don't think that's a high bar to set, but I'm just saying there are people who are graduating high school. I mean, who have already graduated high school this year, and those who are going to graduate next year. That if you handed them a citizenship test out the door, they would not be able to pass it. Like
Yeah,
that.
the
Like
the only question I really had about this
mhm.
is what happens if I fail? How long do I have to wait before I could do a
I'm about to say,
retake?
is it a 90-day waiting period? Is it a year-long waiting period? Do I only like there's a whole bunch of questions that I have here, but I'm just saying that we used to joke about it that like if you handed a citizenship test to just somebody on the street, the likelihood that they would fail is staggering. Like somebody who's lived in this country their entire lives, who went through public education, most likely is going to fail it.
And
Like,
and that's fair, but again, there's outs. So
mhm,
if you wanted to register for the draft, you don't even have to sign up and say yes, I want to enlist in this branch.
yeah,
It's you just have to say I've got some skin in the game. And the phrasing that he uses is it's tying civic privileges to the civic duties. So
I
you get
mean,
this civic privilege to be able to choose your leaders and all of this. And he's just
sir,
saying you have to have some skin in the game.
service guarantees citizenship. That's what he's going for,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
But I mean, not everybody's able to serve, and I mean, most people or pretty much everybody at this point registers because the draft is probably never going to happen again. Hopefully, um, I mean, I registered for selective service and then I joined. So I feel for the people that want to serve but can't for some reason because you can get, I mean, MEPS will process you out for anything. So it's yeah, I think it's just bad policy at the end of the day. I think it sounds good on paper, but enforcement's going to be insane, and you're going to have exceptions for just about everything. Like it's going to be like you tried to do something, but in practice, it turns out that you couldn't keep anybody out. So
It it is, but again, like just agree or disagree. I still very much appreciate that Vivek has what I think are strong morals and strong ideals for the direction that he wants to take the country. And he's not afraid to he's not afraid to lose voters. He's not afraid to lose donors. He's just out there saying, "This is how I think we can be the strongest United States of America."
I mean, I give him credit for that. I also give him credit for the fact that he's young. I think we were talking about this before the show. You had the Mitch McConnell gaffe at the podium where that dude paused for like a full 20 seconds. Like he lost track of where he was going. It's and the entire thing that was going through my mind was like, if this was Joe Biden, like Republicans would be running this for weeks. But the thing is that that kind of opens me up a little bit because all of the people right now who hold power in this country are so old. Like you got Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Mitch McConnell, like
Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Like
Bernie Sanders. Yeah, we can
yeah, you
keep
think any
going.
of these people are in touch with what's actually going on? Like, no, their version of America has been long gone.
But the
Like,
thing is, you say, so if this was Joe Biden, Republicans would be having a field day. Were
oh,
you not looking at Twitter when Mitch McConnell had that? And
oh yeah, I mean, Democrats are having
suddenly,
a field day with it, but
everybody wants
it didn't
term limits
make
on both sides.
it didn't make front page news of like CNN or anything like that. Like it was crazy. Like if it had been Joe Biden, that's the Fox News headline. Like there's no doubt in my mind that is a Fox News front page story.
Yeah, because that would be the president of the United
Right,
States, and as sure, Mitch McConnell is the majority leader, the Senate leader, I guess minority now, but
right,
Mitch McConnell is the senator leader for the RNC, and
right. And I mean, and he's the old guard Republicans, and I mean, he's had a storied career, giving Republicans wins. It's just he's gotten so old now that I don't think he could string a sentence together. Uh, and then like the whole Dianne Feinstein thing, where she had to be reminded how to
just
vote.
vote aye.
Uh,
Just say aye.
yeah, just say I, just say I. Dude, like if I was a Republican, right? If I was a Republican, I would put all of my interns behind her every vote and then just like lean over and be like, vote no, vote no, vote no. Like just to see if they could get her to do it. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
when I see these people like the Dianne Feinsteins and the Mitch McConnells, it's almost like watching UFC, where you got these people that are just staying in the game too long. They're
right.
getting punchy. You hear them talking press interviews, and they're
Mhm.
clearly not there. But because they put some fans in the stands, because they still have some monetary value to the people that are putting them out there, they keep getting put out there, and I think it's just selfishness.
But that's what's crazy is like the people are up there are not even my father's generation. They're like my grandfather's generation, and they're running the country, right? So I think we need a reset. We need to get some of these older people out of there because the America that they grew up in, the one that they made money in, just doesn't exist anymore. Like we need people that are young who have fresh ideas, and I'm talking both sides. Like Democrats need to go younger, Republicans also need to go younger. They seem to get that when it comes to Supreme Court nominees, but when it comes to like actual elected representation, they want the old guard up there. Um, I
Yeah,
don't know.
you
I
talk
think
about.
that's yeah.
Go ahead, you can finish that.
No, no. I think that's the thing Vivek has going for him is that he's the young guy, fresh ideas. Even if I don't agree with them, it's nice to see someone young finally running for president. I think that's the thing Obama had going for him too, when he was the underdog candidate in the Democratic nomination.
Yeah,
I think it was because he was young. Like,
what I was gonna say is you talk about that skin in the game,
mhm,
and when you have these politicians that are in their 70s and 80s, they're gonna be making policies that are gonna last way beyond their lifetimes, way
right.
beyond anything that they're gonna have to deal with the effects of. And that's, I think, a bigger problem that I have with people being older and running. As much as again, we don't want the AARP or all these opening up for lawsuits or ageism,
Right.
but at the same time, I mean, there's still forced retirements. There's people that are CEOs that are forced to retire at 65, and
I
I don't know.
mean,
It's just crazy to me that we allow that people to run
well,
our country.
no, I thing is I agree with you on that. Like I think somebody in their 70s or 80s should not be in Congress or the Senate, like or not even president of the United States. Uh, because the things they're gonna do are not things they're gonna have to live with. The rest of us are gonna have to, right? Like I would prefer a president who signs a bill into law, and then when they get out, they actually have to deal with that consequence, right? Like, oh, maybe I made a terrible decision when I signed that. And that's kind of what you got with like Bill Clinton when he signed the what was the law? It was the one that crap, I can't think of this law. Uh where a bunch of it targeted black people in prisons. Um God, I'll think of it. But anyway, like he's expressed remorse about it since then because now he's gotten out and seen like what it's done to those communities, right? Like I don't think Donald Trump or Joe Biden, for that matter, are going to live long enough to actually like have that moment of remorse. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah, when you realize that Joe Biden is actually older than Bill Clinton.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
I think Donald Trump too, but I think they
right.
might be like right around the same.
I mean, Obama's like nowhere to be found, sitting on a beach somewhere. Like
Yeah,
he pops in for like a Democratic campaign and then goes back to freaking Maui or something.
yeah, and murdering his chef or whatever, like his
Oh, come
personal
on,
chef
man.
that drowned in his
Right.
pool, and then Obama shows up with mysterious cuts on his hand.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, allegedly.
Jesus. All
But
right. Well, I
yeah,
know.
but
I'll,
before we wrap up, one more thing I wanted to talk about with Vivek, his plan, and hopefully this is something we agree on. His plan to use presidential power to consolidate redundant agencies and government programs. He said that's what he's going to use as president to get rid of the ATF, to get rid of the IRS, to get rid of the FBI, consolidate all of those into one body or roll them into something that exists already. And
I
I
mean,
think that would go a long way with trying to stamp out that corruption with these. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
again, I agree with it on paper. Um, the issue that I have with it is what does he consider redundant, right? Like this is all. I mean, there are things that I consider redundant that you probably wouldn't, right? So, like, I think the IRS. I think people have been calling for a long time. Like, you should just send me a bill. Like why do I have to sit there and go throughout all my itemized deductions? You send me a bill and I go, actually, I don't owe this amount, and because I donated this much to charity, like this, that, or the other. Like you send me what you think that I owe, and then I tell you why you're wrong, right? Like that should be the entire process. But instead, what they do is I have to fill out an entire form, and then they have to cross reference it with numbers they already have. Like I don't understand the system. I think it's completely redundant and should be thrown out. And I honestly think that it should be done on a postcard and it should be done online. Like like you should be able to just pull up your account and be like, okay, here's how much the IRS says that I've made this year. Cross reference that with the W-2 I get from my employer. Everything looks good here. Sign, done. DocuSign's a thing.
And
Like,
I would want that to go one more step further and get rid of the actual income tax, like where it's coming out of my check every single time. I'm not a fan of the income tax, but I mean I get it, especially
right,
with how good our country is, like just economically and how much money we have, especially on the world stage. I mean I think we
right.
have enough where we can give that, but instead of it just being automatically deducted, I want to actually write that check. I want to see 30 grand or whatever's coming out of my paychecks over the year. This is how much money I'm giving to the government over a
Right.
year. And I think that would get a lot more people on board with reducing the size of the government.
That's another thing that like I think we can also agree on is like, yeah, I'd much rather write that check myself, but I honestly think it should be like a matter of pride to pay taxes, right? Like you should feel proud to be supporting the country that you live in. And the way the system's set up right now, no one feels that way, right? Like I just look at it come out of my check and be like, I could have done a lot with that. Like, if the government didn't have their hand in my pocket, this would be a really good year, right?
And I think if we were to turn that to states' rights, like if we just flipped instead of paying 22%, 25% to the Fed and, 7, 8% to your state,
Right.
if you flip that where 22, 30, whatever goes to your state,
Mhm.
I think you'd have a lot more of that pride in your community, pride in your locality.
Yeah,
And
I think
states
so.
like Texas and places that don't have income tax,
I
I think you'd
mean
see that flipped immediately.
I mean, that's it's one of the reasons why I moved from California was, I mean, 13% state income tax on top of federal income tax is ridiculous. It's weird to me that we've made a system that's super convoluted. So yeah, I kind of I agree with Vivek on paper. It just depends on how far he goes, right? Like I don't want Medicare mixed with Medicaid. I want those to remain two separate systems. I know it could be combined, but it really shouldn't be. Like if you do the research on those systems, they do two completely separate things. Um, and I don't want them combined unless we're going to do universal health care. In which case, yeah, combine those two things. But since we're not interested in doing that, those need to remain separate. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's just Vivek. So I mean, he started out nobody knew who he was,
Mhm.
and now he's polling number 3. And I think back to like 2006, 2007. Who was supposed to be like that was supposed to be Giuliani versus Clinton in
Right,
2008, right?
right,
And we didn't get either one of them. It ended up being Obama and McCain.
right.
So who knows what's going to happen for 2024? I think it'll be an interesting debate stage. That's for sure.
Yeah, how far Giuliani has fallen because he was America's mayor, and now, like,
A callback to earlier in the show, we were talking about those pathological liars, and he's
yeah,
out there admitting now that he was making stuff up about the election fraud.
yeah. And the thing is the thing he's leaving out is it was at the behest of Donald Trump, and I think that's the part that we need to all pay attention to. Is he's very specifically leaving that out, but he was Donald Trump's attorney. He was doing it at the behest of Donald Trump. Like, and
At at
again,
the at the behest, like Donald Trump is telling him, "This is what I want you to say,"
probably.
or Giuliani's just trying to stay in Trump's good graces. Like, this is what I think is going to make Daddy like me.
But again, it's going back to it's what you can prove, right? So with the Biden Hunter stuff, it's like, well, I mean, can you prove that Biden actually got a kickback from Hunter's dealings? Can you prove that Rudy Giuliani was not told by Donald Trump, right? Like
Yeah,
it's all about what you can prove. I get it, but I think it is very interesting that Rudy Giuliani in court is having to say like, no, I was making stuff up on the fly. Like,
yeah, but I think enough people have flipped on Donald Trump and like talking about Michael Cohen, talking about even Bill Barr, talking about just everybody that's been in Trump's inner circle. I mean, the dude just rubs people the wrong way. Like once you get to know him personally, and I understand the charisma, I understand the attraction of everybody that wants to see him as this godlike figure. But when you're talking about Giuliani, I think he would be in that other camp where if he could flip on Trump, if he had some dirt on him to use, I think he'd be writing a book in a heartbeat, or I guess paying somebody else to write the book for him.
I mean, Giuliani still got time. He can write a book from prison. It'll be great.
Yeah. Finally, we agree.
Yeah, he can write If I Did It. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have to add that in for an episode coming up for
Oh yeah, we'll
some
definitely
OJ
cover
stuff.
the OJ at some point. For those of you that make it this far, like if you want us to do the OJ stuff, put it in the comments, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely do it.
Hit the
Also,
bell.
yeah, like and
Yeah.
subscribe and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.